Welcome to the Background Noise Podcast, where this week we are starting a new segment called Background Bites, where we're going to take time to talk about different eras of films and different film franchises that we wouldn't normally talk about on our main podcast. So this is Background Bites episode 1, and the series we are starting on is going to be the Disney Renaissance era, which, to give a brief summary, was the 10 films from the years 1989 to 1999 that Disney put out that really was their comeback. So around, I want to say it was the late 60s, Walt Disney died. And after that, you had a lot of Disney films come out that, while were fine and many know and love them today, did not do nearly as well as the original films had, like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Jungle Book, things like that came out when Walt Disney was alive, were doing very well. But after he passed away, Disney was not doing as well. And then in the early 80s, they had a guy named Don Bluth who left and took a lot of animators with him and started a competing animation studio against Disney. So they were competing all throughout the 80s. And it wasn't till around 89 that they decided to come out with Little Mermaid, and that really was Disney's return to form. It was basically how Disney got their groove back, was this movie, Little Mermaid. And so that we'll be deep diving into that film first, and then we'll be going into the 9 others in the upcoming weeks. But before we deep dive into our thoughts on Little Mermaid, we are going to be getting a bit of a synopsis for the two of you who have not seen Little Mermaid.
Yes, for the handful of weirdos who have lived under rocks their entire life and have never either seen Little Mermaid or have a child explain to you the plot of a Little Mermaid. Basically, we've got. Turns out mermaids are real. Spoiler alert. And they all live in a nice cat kingdom under the ocean and ruled by the King Triton. And we've got 6 daughters, and then the 7th youngest daughter is Ariel, and she wants to be with humans. She loves humans so much that she scavenges all of the stuff that she could find from shipwrecks, and she sings songs about wanting to be part of your world. And then one day she saves a prince, actually, because it's always a prince, right? With a Disney movie, saves a prince from drowning, and then of course watching his nearly lifeless body flop around in the waves and then saving him from death makes her instantly enamored with him, as one does. I mean, I usually find myself strongly attracted to people because I see them flopping around lifeless in the ocean.
Listen, he looked like a fish, all right? That's what she knows.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And then her dad finds out that she's in love with a human and destroys her collection of human memorabilia, basically. Destroys her entire, all of this like hidden grotto of stuff that she has.
Baseball cards.
Right, exactly. He destroys her baseball card collection. So she runs off to the evil sea witch Ursula, who is, it's underwater Maleficent or underwater the Evil Queen or underwater like any of the classic Disney female villains.
But she's sassy.
Yeah, but she's sassy and she's an octopus. And she makes a deal. If you can get this man to kiss you within 3 days, then you'll be a human. Everything's fine.
Oh, hang on. Not just a kiss, Joe. True love's kiss.
True love's kiss. Yes, it's a true love's kiss because, you can tell the difference between a true love's kiss and like, I'm a friend, I'll peck you on the cheek, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what that means.
My cheek.
True love's kiss in 3 days. And caveat is, if you fail, then you're owned by Ursula forever. And even if you succeed, Ursula steals Ariel's voice. So now a deaf Ariel has to go and seduce Prince Eric into loving her in 3 days' time. And she's actually about to succeed because it's a Disney movie. And then Ursula's like, she'll be kissing him by sunset. It's time Ursula took matters into her own tentacles, which is an actual quote from the movie, best quote from the movie.
Epic. Just amazing.
And turns herself into, like, uses Ariel's voice to turn herself into a woman, a human, I should say. goes up there, enchants Eric, is about to marry him. Then the enchantment is broken because Ariel fights with her, and then uh, Ariel loses. She gets turned into like a little slimy seaweed creature. Triton the king finds out about this, exchanges himself for Ariel. Ursula gets his magic powers, and then they all team up and they end up killing Ursula, and everything's restored to normal. And Triton gives Ariel human legs. She's allowed to be a human. After going through all that struggle, uh, Triton's like, all right, well, I guess you love him enough that you are willing to give up your voice and risk being turned into a seaweed creature, so you get to be with him. And it's the end of the movie. Everyone's happy, except for Triton.
And there was much rejoicing.
And Ursula. Ursula's not very happy.
Well, Ursula's dead, so yeah, she's not exactly happy.
It's true. Well, if we're going to do favorite lines, I think my favorite is when Triton comes in and sees Ariel stuff, and he's like, I consider myself a reasonable merman.
Yeah. That's fair. Excellent line.
That's a pretty good exchange because, what is it? One of the things is like, you're going to be with this human that you don't even know, or what is it? Something like that. It's like you can't fall in love with a human, and she's like, oh, you don't know him. I just wanted to say, oh, do you?
Yeah, right.
Do you though?
You watched him dance on. She did watch him dance on a ship for, I don't know, an hour maybe.
So they're pretty serious.
Yeah,
I've practically known him practically all my life.
Girl, you're 16. all of your life is nothing.
You have to wonder if she's 16, how old is he?
He's a prince, so
he's a prince.
30.
Well, see, he's a prince, which means he could be anything from 5 to 50, depending on how old his dad is and hasn't croaked yet.
Good point.
So, which I think Little Mermaid is one of the ones that's supposed to take place in, like, it's not in a medieval time period. It's more of like a modern-ish time. It's like a couple hundred years ago, not 400 years ago.
Yeah.
Post-Renaissance, if you will.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Quiet,
royalty's
indeed.
still there,
Yeah.
but they're losing their power, so that's some bad implications for the world of the ocean in the future, I suppose.
Yes, be on the lookout for the French Revolution in Atlantica.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Little Mermaid 3, the proletariat uprising.
The Reign of Terror.
Well, we'll probably be saying this for a good chunk of the Renaissance films, but the animation, I would say, still looks good in this film. And Alan Menken, Howard Ashman, that team did an excellent job with the music. And they continued to, I don't think they had brought Menken on for any music before this, but bringing him on for this and other films like Beauty and the Beast and I think Aladdin as well, but bringing him and Ashman on, that team did an excellent job making these iconic Disney songs. And I'll be posting a link to it, probably in the podcast description. But there was this video I watched very recently for whoever ended up listening to our Matrix episode. I ended up talking about a video about the Matrix soundtrack that was very cool. So this same guy made a video about what makes the Disney music sound nostalgic, especially from the Renaissance. And it's because Menken and Ashman really tried to make the Disney films of the Renaissance almost like animated Broadway musicals. And so the influence came by combining classic Disney songs with Broadway musical songs and trying to make sort of that blend. And that's really what makes these Disney songs, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions, very timeless and have a very timeless sound to them. So I'll be putting the link in the description, but that's a very interesting watch.
It's really funny that was the case, and it's, what is it now? The actual Broadway production has been going on for 10 years strong. That's funny. It seems like they accomplished their mission, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I think pretty much anyone who has grown up 90s or later can quote most of the lines from most of these songs. Just like you play the first couple bars and it's like, ah, yes, under the sea, da, da, da,
The
Right.
first notes
like
of
you
Under
just
the Sea.
immediately go into it,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, I can't sing, so please excuse me.
We'll allow it.
We'll allow it.
I'm no Sebastian the Crab.
He's probably actually my favorite character. Sebastian's my boy. He's just
Yeah.
trying so hard just to do what the king says, but he just wants everyone to be happy. And in the process, he ends up being a very good what's the right word?
Wing crab.
No, wing crustacean.
Wing crustacean, yeah.
So, and his songs, if we're talking about favorite songs, Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl, I think are probably my two favorites. Kiss the Girl might edge it out a little bit, but they're both excellent.
That's fair. I would say those are the two best ones.
Yeah.
Normally, in other ones, I will tend to favor the villain song because it's usually like in a minor key. It's usually a lot more like sinister and it's a lot cooler. Unfortunately, Poor Unfortunate Souls has like a 5-minute long piece of dialogue in the middle of the song. And so when you're watching it, you're like, I'm grooving. Yeah. Wow, she's really wheeling him in. And then we got a chat for like 5 minutes about, oh, is it okay for me to lose my voice? How am I supposed to do this? And then we segue back into the song, but at that point I've already lost it. It's like, well, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Feel the vibe. You're harsh.
Poor Unfortunate Song.
Poor Unfortunate Song, yeah.
I'm curious if since I haven't seen these in so long, I'm curious if it's going to be the same with these others. But something I do have to say about this film is there's not a piece of fat on it. Like, every scene does a great job at pushing the film along. There's no really filler or anything. It's a very tight 90-minute film with each scene pretty much having a purpose. And so.
Yes. Well, they are archetypal, right? Each of these stories is a little as a myth or a little bit of an archetypal story, and it is the bones of the story with exactly as much skin as you need in order to understand the specific situation. It's like this is like Little Mermaid is a story about a child growing up and leaving home and encountering problems because they're not prepared to leave home, but they also need to leave home, right?
Right. And then she gets her tongue cut off and then dies.
Right. But it's presented in the form of this Little Mermaid, but it's an archetypal story.
Right.
Which I probably because of that. So there are some of these that I'm very nostalgic for. Ironically, the ones in the Renaissance that are the princess movies are the ones that I'm at least nostalgic for, which I think are the ones that most people remember most. But like, as an adult who doesn't have a lot of nostalgia for Little Mermaid, I loved it again. Like, it was great. It was a great movie. It's like you said, it doesn't have a piece of fat on it. It tells a coherent, competent story. It tells a competent story, and the story it tells is an excellent story. And the animation's great. So
right.
What else? What's not to love?
Yeah. And something that you'll notice, I think this is something they still do with a lot of their films, is Little Mermaid marked, I think, the first Disney film where you have the main guy and girl in the movie, they actually have a bit of time to build the romance instead of just immediately meeting and falling in love. They actually, within that 90-minute time frame, as much as they can, they sort of build on that, and you actually sort of see them fall in love instead of just it being an immediate thing, which was very common with the older ones that Disney directed, like, Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, like I mentioned. So
we don't have him see her in the forest one day and then immediately he is willing to break off all of his previous engagements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you mean that's not how people do? This is a fairy tale.
Which is fair.
Well, this is a fairy tale too, but it's able to this was the first animated fairy tale based movie since Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it is a major gap, and you can definitely tell that I think that gap was able to allow for the, like you said, the storytelling to improve with time, and it doesn't, like you said, the visuals alone, unlike I would say Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs stood on its own because of the fact that it was the quintessential, and still is, kind of the first animated feature film, sort of like the first Foley one and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I think,
But yeah, now this one's got the full package.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're in an area where the Disney Renaissance is I don't know where the transition is, because we'd have to go through and watch all of the Disney movies, but
Right.
Snow White is amazing because it is the first animated feature film, right? And a lot of the previous ones are here is a very, very like simple story. And isn't it so cool that we can do all this cool animation stuff to show you this story? Be amazed by it. Little Mermaid, I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that's the case where it's just, here is a very simple story. Be amazed by how cool the animation is. This is some really cool animation. Also, the story is, like you said, you can actually see a romance. I mean, we know it's rushed. It's only 3 days, right? That's not how real people act. I think I'm fairly sure. I don't know.
From what people tell me,
From what people tell me, yeah. 3 days isn't enough time.
We're going off of outside information, but I tend to agree with you. I mean, it's So
What's
yeah, pretty
interesting-
good. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. What were we gonna say?
I was gonna say, yeah, pretty good. But anyway.
Ursula is somebody who I would say is a sort of she's a solid villain, but she's sort of in the middle for me, where it's like she's not a bad villain, but when I think of favorite Disney villains, I don't think she makes like top 5 or anything like that. She's definitely iconic, and when you think Disney villain, she's usually up there. But when I think about favorites, first of all, she doesn't really have that much screen time, honestly, but she's just, compared to others that we're going to get into, she doesn't stand out, I would say, as much as others like your Gastons or your
Hades.
Or Hades, exactly. So good, but I definitely think as we get through the Renaissance, we'll see ones that are even better and even more iconic.
Mm-hmm. Recognizable is a good word for her, I'd say. It's like just recognizable.
Yeah. Yep. She's one of the ones where you can say, here's the Disney villain lineup, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's Ursula.
Yep.
That's not the one that you think of first.
Exactly. She's there,
Maybe.
But she's not usually your go-to Disney villain.
Yep, that is fair.
Yeah. Well, now we've come to the time where we must decide, did our main character learn anything? No. No, they did not.
The answer is so because the framing of the movie presents Triton, the father, as being in air. And Ariel is correct. Mm-hmm. Ariel's desire is okay, and Triton is in air, and he needs to learn the error of his ways. So the father learns, the daughter doesn't. So the main character doesn't learn anything.
Right.
Because she's not wrong in the framing of this movie.
Yep, I would agree with that. So I think that pretty much covers it. I'll be posting a video for the Renaissance, going in more detail in the description for the podcast, as well as that one about what makes the Disney music sound nostalgic. But before we close it out, do you guys want to add anything else?
Stellar voice cast. Just a lot of good performances, of course. Standouts are, of course, Samuel E. Wright as Sebastian, Jodie Benson. Jodie Benson and Pat Carroll, Ariel and Ursula are kind of Disney kind of go-tos, or they're mainly known for those 2 roles, but Disney used them in a lot of background stuff. And big surprise, Prince Eric is Spider-Man. The Spider-Man from the 1990s TV show. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
It's Tom Holland. What, when he was 2?
What?
No. Tom Holland is the same age as me, and this movie is older than me. So no.
But yeah, that was really all. It's just found that interesting. A lot of Disney found a lot of its like long time running voices here that have done a couple different things. And yeah, it was just another thing that was brought up with the Renaissance, this good cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
Well,
the last that I have,
Mhm.
this is my actual rating for whether a movie is good or not. Because we could do our out of tens and things like that. The actual rating for whether a movie is good or not is it a second snack movie? And what I mean by that is when I'm watching this movie, am I bored enough that I want to pause the movie and get a second snack? Or am I going to continue watching the movie until the end, even after I finished my first snack? This is not a second snack movie. I watched the entire movie through without pausing. So
I will completely agree. I did the exact same thing. I watched this with my family. I had a bowl of ice cream. I did not go back for a second bowl or any other snack of the sort. I stayed and committed and was glad I did.
there you go.
So
I'll admit I watched it in the background, but I was still engaged.
Boo! You have to pay attention.
So for background noise, you treated our subject as background noise.
Ironic, I know, but no, actually, it was I was between two things, but I was still able to get a lot out of it.
Nice.
All right, fair enough.
Cool.
Fair enough.
Well, next week we're going to be covering the only sequel in the Disney Renaissance, as well as its original film, The Rescuers. So we'll be talking about that, as well as The Rescuers Down Under. So look forward to talking about that then. And this has been Background Bites, where if you've been listening, we appreciate you. And if not, then you probably shouldn't listen to this podcast because this is as short as we're going to get.
Yeah, this is as little rambling as we can have and still
Right.
get our points across. So
Quick, Jack, put a bite sound effect at the very end. Do it now. Do it now.